Oh, it's now. It never fails. With my dogs, I don't know you're watching. And if you ain't, I know you will be. Because I'm sweet, I'm here to help you get busy living. What I'm doing is I'm going on one epic adventure every single month for 55 months in a row. And I'm trying to get y'all on these epic adventures with me. Next month we're going to Vegas. The month after that, we're going to LA. The month after that, we're going back to the Midwest. The month after that, we're going up to the Northwest. We're just going crazy, getting busy living, y'all. And as a matter of fact, if we do this right, it's going to get to a point where I'm going to bring you guys with me. Imagine that. Going and getting busy living with me on those epic adventures. Just tune in and explain how that stuff's going to work later. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, please help me welcome to the stage out of Los Angeles, the dazzling D-Rex.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Out of Los Angeles, I'm sitting right across the desk from you in Phoenix, Arizona. How's it going over there?
It smells pretty good where I'm sitting.
And welcome to everyone I see already that is here. Please say hi in the comments section. We want to say hi to you. We want you to involve you in this cool conversation we're going to be having today.
Man, we got a doozy for y'all, for real. We're trying to accomplish all kinds of things in the background, but what we're trying to always do, at least try to keep it interesting. And it doesn't get any more interesting than this girl that we're going to bring to the stage today. Seriously, like, wow. Having a conversation with her made me question everything. And it was so much fun and yet so like heart-wrenching, but so heroic. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's a walk in wonderland, guys. It's like going through the closet to Narnia, hanging out with Bethany, the elastic relic hunter.
Oh, are we? Wait, I thought we were going to say hi to people.
Oh, I thought we were right now. So,
we
hello, Rochelle. Hello, Lori. Hey, Lori. Lori, we owe each other some time here. Come on, get with me, girl. I'm sorry, I've been super busy. My bad. I'm gonna get at you, but let's get together. We've got big things we're working on, and it's moving along. You're gonna be pleasantly surprised. Rochelle, happy belated birthday to you, girl. Hey, D-Rex. I'm sorry that I jumped the gun. I'm just extra excited about this.
I can understand why you would be so excited. Bethany is so interesting in so many ways. I think it's one of the really cool things about being involved in this podcast is the fascinating people that we've had on. And this week's guest, I've been thinking about her all week after briefly chatting with her earlier in the week because I've never met anyone like her. So we should just go ahead and bring on Bethany, the Alaska Relic Hunter.
Hey.
Hey, Bethany.
Hey.
Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I think the name kind of says where you're at, but why don't you tell us where you're at right now?
Yeah, I'm in Alaska. This is where I was born and raised. So this is my home base, and I do travel all around the world. But this is where I'm at most of the time.
What's it like up there in Alaska? I'm sure most of the people down in the what would we call this? The connected states, lower 48.
Lower 48.
We don't have any idea what it's like to live in Alaska.
Beth, tell me an address or a landmark of where you're at. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I just want to take a peek and maybe show people.
Well, I'm actually in Anchorage right now. Okay. I live about an hour outside of Anchorage, but I work, so I commute 5 or 6 days a week to Anchorage, and then I also commute to Seward and Whittier, which the commute to Seward is about 3-hour drive. But that's where I teach scuba diving in the summer.
So that's just one of the very fascinating things about you is that you're actually a scuba diving instructor, but that didn't come easy. And in order to get to that part of the story, I'd really like to just kind of start out with, you are Alaskan through and through. You said that when you were 6, you were hunting and trapping with your dad. Like that's not something that we would normally have done in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Also Roxy cars.
Yeah, I was born and raised near, it's called Chitina Village, and it's more remote. It's about 5-hour drive from Anchorage. It is on the road system, but kind of towards the end of the road system. And my family, I lived out there for the first 20 years of my life. My dad was killed in an accident when I was 6, and that led to a lot of fear that I kind of stuffed down when I was really young and didn't realize it was settling in and affecting me.
Like, in what ways did you identify that fear?
There was a lot of fear of death, and I didn't realize it. I was 5.5 when he was killed, and didn't realize, from my mom's side so much that she didn't know she was kind of putting that fear she had on her children. And it was a rough time for her. She was a young mom with 3 little kids, and so it just instilled that fear of death, fear of, don't take risks, don't do anything that might hurt you or create issues. And so that's something that I didn't realize was underlying most of my childhood. Even though I loved being in the outdoors, my mom remarried a year later, and I just adored my stepdad. And he was a logger, trapper, and so I spent all the time I could outdoors hunting and trapping with him. And but there was always this underlying like fear, being scared of everything. I was scared of bears and scared of wolves and scared of the dark and scared of water and just everything. And so yeah, I spent a huge part of my life in fear before I had some major life changes. So
yeah, and fear can control you. It can stifle you. It's a survival. It's primal, and it's a survival tactic that all creatures learn, or are born with. And it can completely cut you off and have you like controlled, And I remember when you were telling me your story, you were talking about how, when your mom, when you lost your father, that your mom was fearful, and how that impacted you. Where she, was obviously we would all be afraid if we're a young woman with children and they lose their husband. That's a very scary thing, But I remember you telling me how that had such an impact on how you felt or how you handled situations like that with a lot of fear.
Yeah, definitely. And it stifled so many things that I wanted to do in life. But looking back, realizing I would try to step forward and then kind of fall back in fear and try to take the safe route. And yeah, that doesn't really lead to a full, busy, happy life.
At what point did you realize that fear was controlling your decisions?
I was I had become a single mom with 3 kids myself. I years later found myself in almost an identical situation as my mom, other than I had gone through divorce. Instead of losing my husband, all 3 of my kids were the same ages that me and my siblings were when my dad was killed. And it was just like this huge wake-up call. My whole life I had been worried that I would go through the same thing my mom did, that I would lose my husband, all of that. And then I woke up and I was like, life happens. You can't stop it. Here I am in the same situation. Nothing you can do to prevent it. What am I going to do? How am I going to approach this? And that was kind of the beginning of me making these changes and starting to try to conquer my fears. And if I'm afraid of it, now I'm going to try to find a way to overcome that, because I just don't want to be held back by that anymore.
One of the things that caught my attention, the way you described your story before, when you're talking about the fear that you learned from your mom when she sort of lost it, when it was her alone with children and no father to help. And then you were talking about how that you interpreted that as in like maybe overemphasizing the importance of a male in your life, and that you had some, like you told me about, you were so close to accomplishing the goal of being a midwife, and how that coming up short, you felt like that had to do with some fear trauma that you were still holding on to, that because of your fear you actually let go of that career and fell back on a different pathway.
Yeah, and so I mean, my childhood involved a lot of different chapters, and when I was a young teenager, my stepdad kind of started a religious cult, and
A
when
religious cult.
yeah,
He
You
started
don't
it?
hear that every day.
No.
started it. So he brought a lot of fear of God into my life, and I had always felt like God was love, God was there with me, protecting me, taking care of me. And when I was 13, my stepdad started this cult, basically a home church, and there was like 3 or 4 other families that joined, and um, he started creating this fear of God in us, that if we didn't do everything my stepdad said, then God would be angry. And so it was a whole nother type of control and fear that came in. And we had to bring like our jeans, we had to burn them. We had to start wearing long skirts, head coverings. And so I had gone from like this really happy kid that was out running around in jeans and trapping and hunting and fishing. And all of a sudden there was this, you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way. And for me, it was really hard because I always felt like I was close to God. Like he loved me no matter what. I just felt this peace in my heart. And it just, as a 13-year-old, I just never could swallow that I had to look a certain way or be perfect to be accepted. And so
What
that
13-year-old could? You know, at 13, you don't, that is not the point of being 13.
right? Yeah. And so then all of a sudden I had very few friends because I was a weird kid. I was alienated. And that created a lot more fear and trauma. I kind of started to identify just with this like rejection identity, like, okay, I'm weird. Nobody likes me, and now I know I'm weird and I'm okay with it. But,
I love that. That's the happy ending we're going to arrive at. But I want people to really understand that that you never know when you meet someone how much adversity they've overcome, because you're so overflowing with joy that you would never know that you had been building a house in the woods, with your bare hands.
For some reason, you did not tell me this on the phone, and Swede mentioned to me, and I went, "What? Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because I can't even believe what I'm hearing."
Yeah. Well, so part of what led up to that, because of my stepdad starting that cult, my first marriage was pretty much arranged.
Arranged marriage in 2023, I mean, it's ancient. So you were
Yeah,
in the
it was
probably early 2000, probably early 2000.
2001, she
But
says.
I'm saying today we don't even hear about people who've been experiencing that, right? So
Yeah.
this is somebody that's still alive right
yeah,
now has been doing an arranged marriage. That's great.
yeah. So that's kind of what led to it. I wasn't allowed to date at all, growing up, and so my stepdad, um, he basically found someone he thought would be a good person for my life, and he told me it was God's will for my life to marry this person. And it was my escape. I really wanted out of the home situation. At that time, I was almost 23 years old,
Oh,
and
okay.
I wasn't allowed to do anything I really wanted to. I had trained to be a midwife, but he had called me back home and told me I wasn't allowed to do that. So it was my out. I kind of just went along with this arranged marriage because I was like, here's my chance. The guy's cute. He's handsome. Initially my dad had wanted to marry me off to a guy that was 20 years older than me. And so when this guy came up,
Wow.
I was like, hey, he's my age.
Oof. 20 years older than you at 23.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not so nice.
So I ended up marrying a stranger. We were never allowed to be alone until our wedding day. We were allowed to talk for 30 minutes a week on the phone while we were engaged.
You're
Okay.
kidding.
And so I had a very traumatic first couple years of my marriage. I woke up married to a stranger. I didn't know him. He had a lot of anger issues and things that I wasn't prepared to deal with. And so, yeah, he didn't want me to work. He wanted me to have babies, homeschool them. and follow through with the same. His family kind of was the same direction that my family was, of course. And so, yeah, we ended up getting married and not really having a cabin. He wanted to build a cabin by hand. So he bought a tarp tent. And
a what tent?
A tarp tent, like the blue
like
tarp.
A yurt?
Kind of similar, yeah. Like the tarps you cover stuff with.
Okay. But this is Alaska. Like, is a tarp tent enough?
Yeah. How do you keep the heat in, or more importantly, the cold out?
Well, let me see. There was a layer of tarp, and then we put some insulation, and then we put a layer of tarp over the top of that.
Naturally. See what I'm talking about?
Sounds cozy.
Arranged marriage, building your own home. Okay, so
3 babies.
Career in hindsight, like you were so close. That's different. It's different if you never even get started. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anybody else has it easier, but having never gotten started and have your life, sidetracked into motherhood is one thing. You were so close to something that's such a close to your heart feel. Like getting into that kind of thing it's like it's an interior passion, right? So to be just so close to becoming a midwife and then be diverted into the woods, living in a what again? A tarp tent?
Yeah, it was a white. It was like a metal frame with tarp stretched over it, and it had like a plywood base, to walk on. And it was cold. I moved in there when I had a tiny little baby. I got pregnant right away because of the way my family believed birth control is not allowed. So first month that we were together, I got pregnant, and so we ended up moving into this place with a little tiny baby and no electricity, no running water.
Oh my gosh. It's hard enough to have a baby in a normal house. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, he actually never crawled because it was so cold. He wore like snowsuits and little boots, and so he just eventually, at like 9 months, I had moved a couch in there. It was 8 feet. No, it was 10 feet by 16 was the size of it, and so I put a little couch in there, and he learned to pull himself up, and I just kind of lived in there with my baby and cried myself to sleep. And it was tough. The second winter that we were in it, our generator caught fire and burned because it was 20 below and we were trying to heat it up.
20 below?
Yeah. How do you lose your generator in 20 below and live to tell the tale? I don't get it.
Well, we were trying to heat it up. It was too cold to start, and so we put a candle on it to try to heat it up so we could start it, and it caught fire and burned, and I cried, and my ex-husband thought it was kind of funny, and he laughed, and yeah, it was a traumatic time in life.
That is difficult.
Wow. There's some people in the comments. I want to say what up to Grandpa, Uncle Pete, whatever. Grandpa Pete is what I used to always call him. Good to see you again, bro. And my sister Holly Jo. Thanks for showing up and saying hello. We appreciate you guys. Erie's not an easy place to live. In fact, Erie led the nation in snowfall one time, like 5 years in a row. So Lake Erie is where D-Rex and I grew up, and a lot of the people that are in our comment section tonight are probably from there or coming at us from there anyway.
But it's Alaska.
It's not the Alaska building. Give me a break. Give me a break. Tarp tent in Alaska, and you lost. You want to talk about overcoming adversity and getting busy living in the long run? Seriously, we've got a lot more coming at you guys. We're going to talk about Bethany's successes and a little bit more about how she's been able to seriously turn around a shitty deck. And then later on, we're going to have Carol coming at you from behind the curtain. She's apparently got something. She's probably going to try to embarrass me. I know how she rolls these days. But first, I just want to run something by you guys real quick. I've been working on this. This is really kind of going to help you get an idea of what the big picture is, what we're trying to accomplish here, with the Get Busy Living project. So let me skip back.
Hola amigos, Carolina, Ana. here to tell you Alaska is one of the most amazing places on earth I ever seen. You can win an airfare included, all expenses paid, 6-night adventure to visit there. Just go to the HSWA website and click the book tab or scroll down and find the reserve your copy today button. $25 or more reserve your copy of the life feature of Shit-eatin book and offers one of our non-busy life-changing scheme self-therapy. The first 2,000 donors we enter into our Adventures Alaska to the Way, where we will send the winner plus one on a guide tour with Scooty Wells. I have spent months in Alaska, guys, and I'm telling you, it will change your life to the better. Again, just go to www.eheswa.org. Only the first 2,000 reservations will be entered to win, so don't wait another second.
Yes, don't wait another second. Go to the website, get 25 in. Once we get 2,000 reservations, the people that have already chipped in, along with the people that are going to chip in 2,000, we're going to pull a name out of the hat, sending you plus one to Alaska. Now, it would be my sincere honor to book some people with you to go scuba diving in Alaska. So Scooty Wells knows Alaska like the back of his hand. Like this dude grew up rugged and raw. He knows how to like wrestle moose and swim with salmon. This dude's as rugged as it gets. I've traveled with him. I've seen him live off the land. And so he's down to do whatever. We are down to do whatever with you guys up there. We're going to take 2 people up there, 6 nights, 7 days, going to pay for the airfare and let them do what they want in Alaska. Scooty Wells is going to show them the show. So scuba diving could be on the docket, I mean, as long as you don't get famous and price yourself out of our project, you know what I mean?
And while we're talking about this project and while we're talking about this raffle and this prize of going to Alaska to adventure, maybe you could tell us a little bit what it's like to dive in Alaska. I would have no idea what this is like. So why don't you tell us?
Yeah, well, Alaska, this is where I learned to scuba dive. And now it's become one of my favorite things to do. I absolutely love it. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. I love the life under the ocean here. Learning to scuba dive in Alaska is really challenging. It's the second hardest place in the world to learn to scuba dive. And part of that is because the temperatures of the water, you have to learn to dive in a dry suit. And so it adds a lot of complications. Their very first dive in the ocean is with their kit's going to weigh about 80 to 85 pounds total with everything on it.
Wow.
So, it's more challenging. But I've recently been getting into the underwater macro photography. I just love all the life we have. And I put a lot of those pictures on my social media constantly, just trying to share with people what we have.
What social media are you on? And I will put it. Okay, so this is what I'm going to put up here. I'm going to put what we can Google if you want to see Bethany on any social media outlets. But which ones are you on? And I'll put the banner up.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, all of those. So if they just Google Bethany, Alaska Relic Hunter, it brings up past podcasts and just everything I've been on. So.
Okay, so this is all where we're trying to get to. So the first thing that I want to do is I just want to rewind back to where we were for 1 second, because I think what's really important is that you were living in a cold tent with 3 babies, and something made you realize that you were living in fear and that you had to go. Did you have some sort of specific event that tipped the scales?
I had always just kind of let life happen to me. I had always just felt like this is my lot. I take it. Life beats me up. It is what it is. And I really wasn't a very fun person to be around. I was very depressed. I had gotten up to 300 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was very unhealthy, very depressed. And I ended up going through a divorce. And my husband was cheating on me. And I just all of a sudden woke up one day And I was in that place where I was a single mom, 3 little kids. I had no career now. I had no idea what to do. And, I had a choice, either roll over and just give up or be like, okay, this is my life. I have to decide what I'm going to do with my life. And that was the beginning of making changes. It was a couple years of digging out of a lot of different things. I was a single mom for about 3 years before I met my second husband. We were together for about 8 years until we divorced. So I've been divorced twice. My second marriage was amazing, actually. He really encouraged me to find myself, to find my goals and dreams. And we started the Alaska Relic Hunters together and history hunting. So, it was such a wonderful, I mean, even though we're divorced, we're still friends. And it was such a good time for me to find my value, my worth, discover things in life, and really start overcoming fear.
So, yeah, why don't you tell us what Alaska Relic Hunters is?
Yeah, so after I went through my divorce, it became Alaska Relic Hunter, and it's just me now. And it's kind of based around my YouTube channel. It's looking for history. I look for history on the land. I look for history under the ocean. Some of it is, just exploring castles in Scotland. Some of it is mudlarking and finding history in the UK. This last spring, I did my first trip to the East Coast and just found tons of amazing history and artifacts there. I've just made so many friends. I've connected up with so many people all over the world. And it's just, become amazing for me. And then when I added scuba diving to it, it opened up the ocean and just everything that's underneath there as well.
Let's talk about that for a second because I find this fascinating. You said that you were terrified of the ocean, so you decided to become a scuba diver instructor, and this makes zero sense to me. Zero. So,
well, so where I grew up, in interior Alaska, there's no swimming pools. The water's all cold. It's mostly glacier fed, so you don't really learn to swim. And so when I went through my second divorce, even though it was a very civil divorce, I just felt like I needed something big in my life. It just was a time where I had raised 2 stepkids, and my kids were getting ready to move out of the house, and I was like, wow, I'm single, I'm 40, and what do I want to do with my life? I want to do something big. And I've always I've been doing metal detecting for a few years, and always heard about these shipwrecks and all this stuff in the ocean. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out overcoming my fear of water if I want to get under the water. At that time, I could barely doggy paddle, and, I floated pretty good. But,
Who does that? Most people are like, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? First of all, they say it when they're 6, now they're 36. And then when they're grown up and it's time for them to decide, and they pick something that includes all of their biggest fears. No, usually I'm pretty good at drawing. Maybe I'll be a stick figure artist,
Yeah.
Or, I'm pretty good at math, so maybe I'll be a cashier. No, you're like, I suck. I hate swimming. I'm gonna scuba dive. What
my fear is the ocean, and my instinct is so I will never go in it.
Yeah,
that's my decision.
Yeah. But overcoming, I'm afraid of heights, and one of the next things I want to do is try skydiving. I don't want to let fears happen. I don't want to let that become part of me, because we can all die. I can die in a car accident. I watched my mom for so many years not live life because of fear, and I just don't want to live that way. And so with scuba diving, it was the beginning of 2020, I had lost my job and got divorce papers in the same 2 weeks, March of 2020, and the whole world was going into lockdown. And
Wow.
I
What a dark, hard to
yeah,
deal with time.
it it was a challenging time, and yet 2020 was one of the most epic years for me. I found this saying that said, "It's the worst of times. What can you do to make it the best of times?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, yeah." I'm all of a sudden I'm on unemployment. I'm single. I'm going through a divorce, and I was like, "Okay, I can be whatever I want to be." I lost my job, laid off, and I have money, I have time. What do I want to be? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to try scuba diving. And so, I walked into the shop that I now work for, and I didn't know a mask from goggles or anything. I just walked in and I was like, what do I have to do to scuba dive? And they're like, hey, we'll sign you up.
What?
And
Oh my God.
it was the most terrifying 2 weeks of my life. I almost called my instructor and quit every morning because I had nightmares all night long during the whole 2 weeks of my training. Panic attacks. I would wake up feeling like I was drowning, like I was so scared. And I just was like, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to see it through. And it's not come easy for me. Getting to the point of being an instructor, I have failed so many classes.
I was gonna say, it's not like you're not like some phenom that like didn't ever think of it, was always afraid of it, then tried it and was awesome at it. You told me that every step of the way you struggled with the certs and everything.
Yeah, it was like almost every class I've taken. I mean, my first class I passed, but barely. I tried to take the advanced, and I didn't pass it the first time. And I was just so frustrated with myself that I committed, I am going to dive once a week until I pass this class. And then it just kind of became like, I passed it. And then I was like, if I wasn't in the water once a week, I was like, wow, I haven't been diving in 2 weeks. Like, I need to get in the water again. And so, yeah, and I woke up one day, I think I had probably had 40 or 50 dives. And I woke up one day and I went, that's the first dive I've done where I wasn't anxious. I actually was excited to get in the water, and I dove, and I didn't like worry I was going to run out of air, or worry I was going to get lost, or it just was like I was 50 dives in probably before I finally was like, I like this.
Now that's really interesting because I think that 50 dives is a lot, right? Wouldn't you say? And if you think about anything new that you would want to try, can you imagine going into that new thing and saying, I'm going to be terrified 50 times in a row before I start to enjoy this? People probably wouldn't even start.
How many foods would you eat if you tried it more than 3 times and you didn't like it?
Right, you got to try it 50 times? So you're an incredibly persistent person.
It's really, I'm so thankful that I struggled through it, because now as an instructor, I actually didn't pass a part of my instructor training the first time, and I had to go back and practice and then go take the exam again. And
what was that part?
So I had a really rough day in the ocean. It was February. The water was 35 degrees. We had some waves coming in, a little bit of chop. It was really challenging. I was stressed. The instructor was, the examiner was up from California, and I just felt kind of off. And it was a tough day. Like, I wasn't able to pull off the skills really smoothly. And so he was just like, I'm not sure you're ready for this. And, we all have an off day. I always do it when I have an exam.
Okay.
So, but I'm glad now that it hasn't been easy for me, because I have so many students that come in and I see the fear in their eyes. I see the same things they're struggling with that I struggled with, and I can tell them, I can say, listen, if you want this, you have to dig deep. You have to find the strength inside of yourself. You have to have a bigger reason. When I have a new class of divers, the first thing I ask them is, why do you want to learn to scuba dive? because that tells me so much. If I have someone that says, my boyfriend, my spouse, somebody wants me to do it, I'm pretty much sure they're not going to finish, because diving is hard in Alaska.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people are like, you do that for fun? That sounds like torture. Why would you put yourself through that on purpose? And I was just thinking about that. It's funny you mentioned that, because the reason I went scuba diving the first time is because I had a really super hot girlfriend that wanted to go scuba diving. I was like, you ever think of that? And I'd have done anything she told me to. So I was like, yeah, I'll scuba dive.
Yeah. And, that's the thing is, a lot of people sign up because somebody wants them to sign up. But when it comes down to, the water's 40 degrees and you have to take your mask off in that water and clear it. And you're, putting, 90 pounds on your back and hauling it down this slope or up this slope. And it's hard. How badly do you want it? Are you doing it for yourself? Do you have that inner drive that I'm going to do this?
Mm-hmm. And so, what would you say makes it worth it? Why do you do it?
It's interesting because so many of us divers here, it becomes an addiction. It becomes an addiction. It's the weirdest addiction.
I can't even. I know. I was like, I can't even imagine what would make that addictive. But go on.
It's peaceful. It's so peaceful. Life is so stressful. We all have tons of stress in life, and when you get in the water, you're weightless, and you go down into this world that very few people ever get to see. And you hang out with fish, and you watch octopus crawl across the bottom, and you forget the surface exists for a while. It's very therapeutic. It's like your Zen place. You breathe very, very slowly. You're just floating through the water. And so there's a lot of work to get to that point. But there's a number of people that have actually dealt with PTSD by scuba diving, because you have a very gentle pressure of the water around you. It kind of calms your mind. You get into a very calm pattern of breathing. And it really is good for a lot of people with PTSD. So
I like that you said you're glad that it was hard for you. It's very interesting. We were just driving around, Swede and I, we were just driving to get a part for this podcast. We needed a little mechanical part. And we're driving around talking. And I said something similar to that, where I said, sometimes it's hard to appreciate the good things if you haven't had the bad things. And he said, I don't believe that. He said, I don't believe you have to go through all that. But I said, I think I do. So
you know what?
An individual thing.
It really is. I look back and I can't think of anything that I would undo in my life that's happened. I've gone through 2 divorces. I lost my dad when I was young. Like, there's a lot of different challenges that I've gone through, but it's made me who I am today. And it's helped me overcome those fears. And I think, I look back and I don't think I would undo. Yeah, I have hard, painful times in my life. And I think about, maybe that would be different, and how, things could possibly be different. But, it makes you who you are. And
yes,
so
that's true.
You just,
what are we looking at here on this screen here?
So that's one of my favorite jellies. It's called a red-eyed Medusa. And I love doing pictures of them. Lots of different, we have such different macro life up here. So Alaska has so much biodiversity. Like, when you go dive in warm water, tropical, you're going to see like hundreds of thousands of brightly colored fish. Up here, we have so much biodiversity. They're different creatures. They're unique. Every time I dive, I see something that I don't know what it is, and I take a picture and go back and use Google image and try to figure out what I was
Interesting.
And that's one of my favorite things about diving in Alaska, is just you never know what you're going to run across. And
have you seen anything dangerous?
Scuba divers have a different idea about what's in the ocean. We dive with sharks and that sort of thing, and it's different. You go down into their world. I've been able to dive with sharks, and I've never been scared of anything I've seen in the ocean.
Says no one ever until you. So I've been scuba diving on different places around the world, and I've never not been afraid. It's quite intimidating. I've enjoyed it every single time. I almost died the third time I did it because I got caught in the current. Luckily, they found me, but I was floating away. But I mean, very few people look at the ocean through this lens of of calm. Like you seem to be unaffected by it, even though you went through so much struggle to get there.
Yeah, a respect for the ocean is important. The ocean can kill you. So having respect for the ocean is really important. But when you start being afraid, you short circuit your ability to make wise choices and decisions. And so you don't want to, if you are afraid to the point where you can't actually deal with situations that might arise, you shouldn't be diving. You shouldn't be in the ocean. Like anxiety, and that's what I tell my new students, some anxiety is normal. Like it's different. But if it's fear to the point
yeah, we didn't like what just showed up on the screen there.
What the hell was that?
Can you tell us what just happened?
Actually, that's how you process a sea cucumber. They have little strips of meat, and so you open them up. Sea cucumber is a delicacy all over the world in different places. And Alaska has huge, like thousands of them that you harvest. So, yes, some of my shows, I do show how to harvest the life from.
Oh, wow, look at that.
The ocean. So yeah, sea cucumber tastes really amazing. It's got wonderful strips of meat off of it, and it's kind of like clam strips is what it tastes like. So yeah, it's.
I'll trust you on that, Bethany. I'm not going to have to dive in myself. No pun intended there.
Speaking of diving in myself, I am absolutely on my way up there. And my boy Dave was here a month or so ago and helped me get into my pool. And I'm pretty sure that he's down to take it to extremes. And so I'm working on getting up there. Okay. I want to come dive with you. Seriously, especially because you get to go relic hunting too. I mean, are you kidding me? I want to pull me a wife out of that sea.
Well, you know what? I have a new YouTube video that'll be coming up. I just flew back from Sitka this morning. I did a bottle dive there and collected a lot of artifacts from under the ocean off of the shore in Sitka. So should be some really nice bottles coming out of there. I'm going to clean them up. And
what do you do with these bottles?
My house kind of looks like a museum.
I was going to say, yeah, I bet you have a cool crate.
I try to repurpose a lot. I find things, I rebuild and repurpose.
Can you tell us about some of the most interesting things that you've found in your relic hunting?
Yeah. Up here in Alaska, I like to follow the Alaska Railroad construction history. And so they had construction camps every so often along the railroad when they built it. And I've been able to find different construction sites and just pull out thousands of artifacts. And I have a lot of those. If you scroll through like my Facebook, Instagram, on social media, there's a lot of pictures of things I find. And
just give us a couple examples of things, because I can't even imagine what they would be.
So one of my favorite things in Alaska that I found is I pulled out the very remote location. I pulled out a child's cast iron sewing machine. So it looks like a little miniature Singer sewing machine, and it would be a little hand crank. And I've got pictures of it on Instagram if you scroll back. I found it in this remote place way up north in Alaska along the railroad. So I believe it was from 1920, and it would have come from Germany from what I can tell. So the story behind that and how it got to Alaska yeah, pretty amazing, I'm sure, if it could speak. So, but yeah, I found, I mean, there's just more artifacts than I can possibly talk about. I did my first Native American dig this last spring in North Carolina, and found a really nice hide scraper, some pieces of pottery. Yeah, just
I
so
can't.
much.
Can you imagine, D-Rex, the thought of you, Beth, being in your tarp tent with the burnt out generator, crying on your pillow, 300 pounds eventually in your life. Like, you want to talk about like a spiral downhill that finds you somewhere that it was way beyond anything that you could have ever deserved, right? And just a shitty hand dealt. And to turn it around, and you literally are a treasure hunter to find the treasure in your life. You're literally doing that.
Yep.
We want to talk about a success story. I mean, I've tried to give different examples of what it meant to get busy living on this show in many different ways, but I can't think of any better example of turning around what you've turned around. I'm sure your children are super proud of you. I'm sure you've got an ex that you said that you guys are really still good friends. I'm sure he misses you, and that other guy, I'm sure he's kicking himself.
Well, he should be. There's a funny comment here. I had around 50 dives before I felt comfortable. My mantra was, "I'm not dead yet." Now, after a few thousands, I'm cool.
I'm cool.
All of
Yep.
these things, and I don't dive if I have to wear a wetsuit.
Oh, damn. Well, Dave, you're gonna be freezing your knuckles off then when we get when we get up to Alaska. That's the guy I was telling you guys about, man. That's my dude. He's made a major
Yeah.
impact. And Bethany, I'm so excited to have you. I really appreciate the time you've spent with us, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our other contributor. This my girl contributes to my life in so many ways. So what she does is she kind of like watches the show, and have an idea of what we've learned about you. She's got a peek behind the curtain, we call it. Like, it's another perspective, that things that maybe we didn't draw out, DRX or I, or you didn't volunteer, or the audience didn't bring up. And then she, always has something special to show our audience, that kind of like wraps it up. So we call it Caro from behind the curtain, because it's her little glimpse at what goes on, from her perspective.
Don't chase the monkeys.
Hi, Caro.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Bethany. That was an amazing story. Very inspirational. That was awesome. And thank you, Direx. Thank you, Sue, for letting me this opportunity once again, for to share with our audience what's going on behind curtain is something that I'm looking forward. And I hope to show a unique perspective to our audience of what's going on behind the scenes, and hopefully showing the way how I see it. You will gain some appreciation for what we're working to accomplish with this project.
Yeah.
And you guys can feel more encouraged to participate with us. So please don't forget to like this episode today.
Yes, like and share. Like the episode if you're having a good time, and share
Yeah.
and subscribe onto YouTube.
And
If everybody that
don't
watches
forget.
subscribes, we're making some progress.
Exactly. So don't forget. Well, listening Bethany, oh my God, it was amazing. You're a great inspiration. And it reminds me of this famous Nelson Mandela quote that it says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not who does not feel afraid, but is the one who conquers that fear. So I think this apply perfect for this chat today with Bethany.
Yeah, I love that quote. It's it's not that you're not afraid; it's that you are afraid and you do it anyway.
Exactly. So when fear begin to interfere with your life and interfere with the things that you want to do in life, is when you have to start to pay attention. Sometimes fear makes you paralyzed, makes you avoid to do the things that you want to do in life. But we all have to deal with that sometimes. And I think the biggest fear of most of the people is speaking in public. And I'm no exception to the
And look
rule.
at you. Look at you.
I am, when I have to face fear, I feel super vulnerable. I feel like afraid that people is gonna think like I look stupid, that I'm gonna fail. A lot of things, especially for me, it's more challenging because English is my second language, and it's even more difficult for me. But I think if I don't try, I'm not gonna get to the point where I'm going to be in my future. So this is like I have to fail, I have to feel like afraid about what people is gonna think about me. But I'm here taking advantage of this great opportunity to participate in this project, and here I am trying and getting better and better. And it's never late. You're never too old. You are never too young to start and accomplish your dreams. And
You're at
like,
that stage like where you're starting to overcome the fear, and that's kind of like Bethany was talking about, turning that corner. When you started to realize how you were being stifled.
Yeah,
exactly.
and it didn't take you 50 podcasts to start overcoming your fear, but however long it takes.
Yeah, and Bethany, I know that, and I apologize, Carol. I don't mean to interrupt, but
No,
Bethany
no,
has made
no.
she has
I can
made
take
it.
a breath.
She made it clear to me that she's got a class to teach, and so we're coming up on when she needs to bounce out of here. And so I'm going to cut you off, but I do want to try to give D-Rex and Bethany an opportunity to kind of speak on what you were saying about it. Do you have any kind of significant moments in your life where you can remember kind of being stifled by fear? D-Rex, like, does that come? Do you have any success stories?
No, I don't think that I am very good at overcoming my fears. Like I said earlier, when it comes to things like I'm afraid of the ocean, I just don't go in it. I find something else to do. So I don't believe I'm the person to speak on this.
What about you, Beth? You talking about skydiving? You said you're afraid of heights, and look at you. You're going to go after it.
Yeah. Well, fear is really all that's holding everyone back. Fear is the reason that people are not starting businesses they want to start, that they aren't living their dreams. I talk to so many people and they say, well, someday I'm going to, and someday never becomes today. And that's what I tell people. As soon as somebody tells me someday I'm like, okay, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now. Like, you do it now because we don't know that we're going to have someday. And so, yeah, it's time to just start today.
I remember when I was. Um,
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can
Good.
I?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add something here that I remember when Sui was, when he woke up of his coma, and I was in Kuala Lumpur, next to his bed. He was having a really hard time, like moving his arms and doing the most easy things like his hands or raising his arms. I mean, he was struggling with everything, and he was trying to look okay and, like pretend that he wasn't afraid. But you can see on his face, it was all over his face, like trying uh, the fear of the codependency and the uncertainty about his future was like haunting him. So go ahead. What do you want to say about that,
Well,
Sui?
no, that's yeah. Um, when I think back about that, man, like the memories are surreal. And I thought, I don't know at what point I realized when I woke up and I realized that it was real. This life actually did happen to me, and I actually was like a monkey chaser. Yeah. So I probably did have fear written all over my face, and now the thing I'm afraid of the most is that that someday people are going to be like, damn, that was a waste of money keeping that clown around. Like my biggest fear is that I'll fail at this and I won't be able to throw that huge party that I promised everybody.
Yeah, yeah, but you're doing a great job, and you are working on this, and every day we are facing your fears. And actually, I put a little video together of what we have struggle every day with Sui, and how he's facing his fears today since he woke up of his coma. And this is what we got here. Today he's gonna be 33 push-ups. 34. 34, I'm sorry. Okay.
Seriously, am I in my underwear?
32, 33, 34. Oh,
Go!
200. That's what he wants. I don't know.
Wait.
Can you guys believe how far he has?
That's so
got
great
right
to
now?
see. That is great to see.
Hold on, let me see this.
Look at how
Man,
hard.
that shit was impossible, man. I couldn't do it.
Oh my God! Look at how he has to struggle, and look at how strong he is right now.
Oh my God.
Big progress.
Carol, thank you for that. Oh man, Bethany, thank you for everything you've done. I know you got to run. Your students need you. D-Rex, Carol, love you guys. Please thank Bethany from your own hearts. I'm going to let you guys have that.
Bethany, it was so great to have you here. You've been a huge inspiration. You're like the coolest chick I've ever heard from. It's like everything that you said is so amazing.
I hope I can go to Alaska tonight with you sometime.
Yeah, well, you guys
really
come on
looking
up
forward.
and I'll take you out to find some relics. We'll find some artifacts.
Hell yeah, we're going treasure hunt. We're going treasure hunt, baby.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're gonna get you back on one of these days. But I appreciate you one more time. Seriously, I know that you don't have to do this. Really appreciate you sharing your story. It's truly an inspirational story, and I'm so happy for you that you've been able to make. You've chosen happiness, like you described to me, and everything's working out for you. I'm super proud of you and happy for you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Okay, thanks. Have a nice evening.
Wow.
That was that's an incredible story. That is an incredible story.
We all have stories about, nobody's immune to fear. I think it's a primal instinct that, everybody has to face any time in our life. So.
And what a perfect way of describing it. Like, you're like, I have a fear of public speaking, and here I am. Like,
I'm here, like, my heart is still like, but here I am. And I know this is going to help me to gain confidence and self-reliance, and I'm going to get better and better and better.
Hell yeah. And, while it's just the three of us here, and for our audience, again, you guys, I appreciate y'all coming. But while it's the three of us, D-Rex, remember we have talked about this in the past, about being able to operate this thing in a way that the message gets out, the people are picking up what we're putting down, but we're also able to inspire each other and learn from each other, and to be able to say, look back and say, yeah, we talked about this and we talked about that, and all of these different lessons that we've learned from our guests and shared with our guests and from our audience sharing with us and all that kind of thing. Imagine the time when in the future when we're going to be able to look back and be like, I remember having a podcast with Alaskan, the Relic hunter, and she was talking about how she overcame fear and made fear her bitch. And then you're gonna be like, yeah, I remember back then I used to be afraid of the ocean. And then we're about to go under.
I still might not do that.
If I have my way.
It's a piece of cake, so easy. It's more difficult to speak in public. Trust me, I guarantee.
It is not nearly as hard as this podcast. And just so you guys know, seriously, I know that this ain't easy, and it takes time and effort and patience, and you get frustrated, and but you guys keep on coming back. And I just want you to know, before I peace out the audience. I really do love you guys, and I really do appreciate you. So give yourselves a round of finger claps for having you. Hell yeah, I love you guys.
Well, we love you,
Seriously.
and this has been awesome.
And like I always like to end every show to remind everybody to always remember that we're all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah. Thanks, everybody.
But you gotta believe